All right. I guess we'll go ahead and get started with some introductions. My name is Mason. I am a senior at MSMS from Grenada, Mississippi, and I'm going to be one of your teachers for today.
Hi, my name is Skylar. I'm also a senior from MSMS, and I'm from Goshen, Mississippi.
Oh, hi guys, I'm Claire, and I'm from Starkville, Mississippi.
Hey guys, I'm Adriana. I'm a senior, and I'm also from Starkville.
All right. So before we get into things, let's just set up a few ground rules. For the most part, we are going to try to have everybody stay muted, please. And we will call on you. If you raise your hand, you can do that using Zoom or just actually raising your hand, and one of us will see you and call on you. And I might ask at some point if you guys could give me like a thumbs up or something to say you're ready to move on or you're understanding what's happening. Whatever it is, I might ask for a thumbs up, and you guys can just hold your thumb up like this or use the Zoom reaction, whatever you like to do. Moshi, do you have a question?
Just wanted to make sure that you knew my name was Moshe and not what says on the Zoom.
Oh, come on. You've been to too many of these for me to forget your name, Moshe. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get into this. All right. So we've got our puzzle here. And I guess we'll go ahead and read the directions. All right. So it says the shaded squares multiply on each row and column to equal the number in the unshaded square. Complete the grid. All right. So basically what that means, right, is you're going to have like a number up here, like this 3, and a number over here that will multiply to give us the numbers in the middle. And our job is to use multiplication or division to figure out what all those numbers in the grid are going to be. Before we start things, can I just ask you guys give me a thumbs up if you guys have been taught how to do fraction multiplication before? All right.
A couple people without a thumbs up, so maybe just go over it in case.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. All right, so basically, fraction multiplication is pretty simple, right? So I'm just going to come up with some fake numbers here. We're going to go with 1/4 times 2/3, let's say. All right, so basically, all there is to fraction multiplication is we multiply straight across the top, and straight across the bottom. So this is going to equal 1 times 2, which is 2, over 4 times 3, which is 12. And then 2 over 12 can be reduced to 1/6, but you don't necessarily have to do that. I suppose I should probably go over a little bit of fraction division as well before we jump into things. So
Mason, can you switch to a lighter color?
Yeah, I switched to red. So we're going to go with, say, 1/2 and we'll divide that by 1/4, I guess. All right. So 1/2 divided by 1/4, right? Is actually going to be the same as taking 1/2 times, and then you flip this one. So you would make that 1/2 times, oh, my bad, 1/2 times 4/1. And that would give you 4/2, which is going to equal 2. You flip the other one, which is 4. Yep. Good job, guys. Are there any questions about fraction multiplication or division before we begin? Just want to make sure everybody is on the same page.
What's your question?
I heard you can make a whole number a fraction, but do you put the 1 up?
So I think I heard his question was, when you're making a whole number into a fraction, do you put the 1 above or below it? Is that was that the correct question? Okay. So you would want to put it below it, right? So if you have 4, that's going to be the same as 4/1, right? And you can kind of check yourself, because if you put the 1 above it, then that would be 1/4, which is not even, it's less than 1, and so you know that can't be equal to 4. So that's kind of how you can do that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this puzzle. So when I start looking at this, it's kind of overwhelming. There's a lot of empty boxes here, but I see some stuff that looks pretty familiar. I like this 3 up in this corner. I think is a good place to start, right? It gives us a spot without fractions or decimals to start things off. So I see 3 times something is 12/4. So let me write that out. 3 times something is going to give us 12/4. So this is the same as saying, remember, this is, we take 12/4 divided by 3 equals something, right? Because multiplication and division are inverses. So we can flip this around like that. And then because of what we just learned with fraction division, you can write this as 12/4 times, remember this 3 is really a 3/1, so if we flip that around, it would be 1/3 equals some number. It equals 1, you think? Well, let's see. Let's go ahead and multiply this out, right? So we would get 12 on the top, because 12 times 1 is 12, over 4 times 3, which is also 12, right? And so, yeah, 12/12 is going to end up equaling out to 1. So good job with that. I'll put the little thing on there so it's a little more clear that that's what 1. Yeah, so great job with that. I'm gonna erase all this stuff, and let's see. So now we've got that 1 over there, and I think that 1 seems like it'd be pretty easy to work with, right, guys? Because we all know how to multiply times 1, right? So the first thing I'm going to say is 1 times 0.25, right? And we know that anything times 1 is itself, right? So we can just bring this down, right? And we know that 1 times 0.25 has to equal 0.25. And let's see, what else can we do with this one? All right, so we know. Oh, Sagan, do you have a suggestion?
We can do the one above 6/3 because we know that 1 times it will just be itself because 1 times 6/3 will be 6/3 because.
Yeah, that's exactly right, guys. So if you didn't hear what Sagan was saying, he said that 1 times this equals 6/3, and since we know that anything times 1 is itself, we know that 6/3 has to be equal to whatever's up here. But does anybody know what is a different way that we can write 6/3 that you might be more used to seeing it as?
LeBron in the chat said it. So did Ashley.
Nice. You guys see 2's 2. Yeah. Y'all are figuring it out. Yeah. The 6/3 is equal to 2. So we can go ahead and just put a 2 up here. And we know that that can work out. Oh, wow. The 2's are still pouring in. All right. So from here, right, 2 seems like a pretty good number to work with, I think. So I would say, why not just let's multiply 2 times 0.5, and let's go ahead and fill this box in. Does anybody know what 2 times 0.5 is going to give us?
LeBron and Vincent typed it into the chat.
Yeah, looks like we've got a bunch of 1s coming in, and I think that's going to be right. So yeah.
1.
2 times 0.4. Yeah, 2 times 0.5 is going to give us 1. So we got that box filled in. But now, right, we've got one more box we can fill in with a whole number, right? And that's 3 times 0.5. So let's go ahead and do that. Do y'all know what 3 times 0.5 is gonna give me?
1.5 or 1/1/2.
1.5, 1 and 1/2. Both of those are correct. I'm gonna write 1.5. And y'all feel free to raise your hand and tell us to work one of these out if you want us to. Okay, how does 1 times 2 equal 6/3? All right, so that's going to be, all right, so 1 times 2 we know is equal to 2, right? But the secret here is that 6/3 is also equal to 2, right? And that's because we can divide that out, right? So this fraction bar is also division, right? So this also could be written as 6 divided by 3, which gives us 2. Does that make sense? Why 6/3 and not just 2? I put that in there just to see if it would trip you guys up, but you guys figured it out pretty quickly. All right. So now we're kind of out of whole numbers, right? We don't have anything else we can do with the whole numbers just yet. So we're going to have to move into some fractions. All right. So where do we want to go? I say we do this one here, right? Because we already have what we're multiplying, and it's just decimals. So we won't have to mix any type of fractions and decimals. So
Isaac, you have your
go ahead,
hand
Adrian.
up. Did you have a question? I guess not. Sorry, Mason.
All right. So 0.5 times 0.25, right? So that we can. Some of y'all have are figuring out already, but I'll go ahead and work it out. Because this one is a little bit harder. Times 0.25. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 0 plus 2 is 2. Put our placeholder 0 down here. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 times 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. Add that up. We get 5, 2, 1. And then we have 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal at the top because the 5 and then the 2 and the 5. And so we have to put 3 numbers behind the decimal at the bottom. So you get 0.125, which I believe a lot of you guys have figured out in the chat. You guys are saying some nice things in there. And yes, that is also equal to 1/8 for the people that worked it out using fractions. Sagan, do you have a question?
No, but I was just gonna say another way you can do it.
Sure. What's another way you could do it?
You could do since 0.25 is the same thing as 0.250, we could just do that and we can find what half of 0.250 is because 0.5 is the same as just 1/2.
That's true. You could do that. So you could take 0.250 and divide that by 2, and that is the same thing. And that's kind of what we were talking about earlier.
Isaac's also got his hand up.
I was just gonna say that the next one we should do is 0.25. That one, and under it's 2.5 because I feel like that one would be pretty easy to solve.
That's a good spot. That's definitely a good one for us to try. What do we think? So 0.25 times something gives us 2.5. What do we think that's going to be? See a 10 in the chat. Do we agree that it's going to be 10? Seeing some head nods. More 10s are in the chat. All right. I also agree it's going to be 10. So, oh, well, that's not a pretty 10, but it's a 10. So now with that 10 in there, we can multiply down across here. So we're going to have, oh, yeah. See that in the chat, guys? After that, 2 times 10 will equal 20, and 3 times 10 will equal 30. And that is exactly right. So we'd have a 20 here, and we'd have a 30 here. Perfect. Go ahead and erase this.
So has anyone else solved any of the other missing squares that like we haven't gone over yet? Has anyone else solved any?
Sagan, your hand is up.
We could do the. I already did all of them, like so before the Zoom meeting.
Okay, well, let us know which one do you want to go over together?
Uh,
Does anyone oh, go ahead, Sagan.
no, I didn't have anything.
Okay. Does anyone else have any suggestions?
Moshi has a suggestion in the chat. He's saying that 2/5 times 2/5 equals 4/25.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that is true. You are also a good bit ahead of us right now. So why don't we go ahead and figure out what this number up here is going to be, and then we can get to what you were saying, Moshi. So we will have 0.5 times something is going to give us 1/5, right? So how do you guys want to work this out? Do you guys want to work it out in fractions or in decimals? Because we can't really do it when they're mixed like this.
Hunter recommended decimals.
All right. Decimal. Oh, CC says fraction. I see more decimals than fractions, so we'll work it out in decimals. So what would 1/5 be as a decimal, guys? 0.2, Hunter says. 0.2, yep. All right. That's right. 1/5 is equal to 0.2. Let me write this out right. So what we have is something times 0.5 is going to give us 0.2, and that means that we can divide 0.2 by 0.5, and that should give us that other number, right? We know we're going to have to move our decimal one to the right, which means we got to move it inside here too. It moves right here. We bring it up top. And we know that we can have zeros after this because there's the decimal there. So 2.0 is the same as 2, and so on. 5 can't go into 2, but it can go into 20. It goes into 20 4 times. And then 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract that. We have 0. So we're left with 0.4. And I see in the chat some of you guys had that same answer as well. So we'll go ahead and put 0.4 up here.
Which is the same thing as 2/5.
That's true. It is the same thing as 2/5 if you were wanting to work it out with fractions. All right. So now we can do what Moshe was telling us to do. So we have this 0.4 or 2/5 times something. It's going to give us 4/25. Do you guys want to work this one out as fractions or decimals again? I'll give you guys the choice again.
I see Isaac with the fraction showing 2/5. Does anyone agree? Everybody
agrees with fraction.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see lots of fractions in the chat, so we'll go ahead and work this out as fractions. So several people have already said 0.4 is equal to 2/5. If you want to know how we got that, feel free to raise your hand and we can explain that to you. Otherwise, I'll just do 2/5. So we have that 2/5 times something equals 4/25. So that is the same as 4/25 divided by 2/5, right?
Mason,
Which
before you go further, Moshe, why did you choose to do 2/5 instead of 4/25? Can you tell us why you told us? Oh, okay.
Well, me and my mom went over these sheets a few days ago. I still have the note, and I still have the sheet paper where I worked out the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Also, because I decided that half of 4/25 was 2/5, basically.
Right.
If you divided that by that, you get that. So.
Exactly. So obviously you should take the safest route to get the right answer, but if you're feeling a little more advanced, you can always simplify your fractions before you go into further work, because it's probably easier to multiply 5 times 5 rather than 25 times 5 or whatever numbers.
Okay, thanks for the advice.
Yeah. So you can always reduce before you go into multiplication. Another fun trick for you guys is sometimes if it divides evenly, like this one does, you can't use this all the time, but if they divide evenly, you can just divide the top and the bottom straight across, and that will also give you the answer. But the safer way to do it, which is the way that I'm going to show right now, would be to be 4/25 times 5/2. And we will reduce this because before we multiply, because otherwise it's kind of not fun. So you can, when you're multiplying fractions, right? These diagonal ones, if they have a common factor, or you can divide by the same number on both of them, then you can go ahead and reduce them, right? So this 5 and 25 both have a 5 in common. 5 divided by 5 is 1, so that'd be 1. And 25 divided by 5 is going to give us 5. So we can put a 5 down there. It's the same with these two corners. 4 divided by 2 would give us 2, and 2 divided by 2 is going to give us 1. So now we have, sorry, it's a little messy, but we have 2/5 times 1/1, which is just going to give us 2/5, right? So that means that our missing number over here is 2/5. Ooh, the chat is.
Can we do the one above 4/25? Just get it out of the way because it's really easy.
So I'm gonna let y'all work the rest of this on y'all's own because we are out of time for today. But I think hopefully you guys have picked up enough that you can fill out the rest of these puzzles. But anyway, you guys can feel free to leave the meeting now. Great work this week, and I hope to see you again next Wednesday.
Bye.
Good job.
Do we leave the breakout room or leave the meeting?
Meeting.
Leave the meeting.
Yeah. Bye.